Kenpachi is the title that is only given to the strongest Shinigami. The title is held with a rule that there can be only one Kenpachi per generation, meaning that the predecessor must die for the killer to succeed the title. Today we're going to rank all the 11 Kenpachis in order of their strengths and weaknesses, but first, welcome to the channel. Please do consider subscribing as it helps the channel in pushing the content to more Bleach viewers. Thank you. We will use two methods in our ranking to make it fair to all our Kenpachis. First of all, we will consider their battle stats using the established combat score system and also consider their feats. Secondly, we will consider the results from the showings of two Kenpachis that fought each other. So let's start with the lowest ranking Kenpachis, the 9th Kenpachi and the 2nd Kenpachi. They rank so low due to both positions being filled by former 11th Division lieutenants, who received the title as a means to keep it alive. Due to their unknown feats, we will give both the 2nd and 9th Kenpachis a similar position of rank number 10. Now on to the stronger Kenpachis. Unfortunately for these two, they're also almost feet less, but they do have a feat each nonetheless. These two I'm talking about are the Kenpachi Kagani, the 10th Kenpachi, and the unnamed 3rd Kenpachi. Both have a similar feat of defeating the previous holders of the title, but unlike the other Kenpachis to come, they mostly defeated former 11th Division lieutenants who received the title instead of earning it. Due to sharing a similar feat, they both unfortunately hold a similar type of rank like the previous two, since there isn't much to differentiate between the two, and hence for now they've earned a shared rank of 8. Due to the nature of the title of Kenpachi, one would assume that the holders are transcendent beings or at the very least high captain level Shinigami, but unfortunately, the previous 4 can only afford to be ranked as being low to at best mid-level captain class fighters in my opinion. With 4 positions filled, let's continue with our rankings. Unfortunately, we also don't know much about the following Kenpachis, but we're going to rank them nonetheless. The nature of the title Kenpachi allows for each generation of Kenpachi to be stronger than the previous holder of the title. So using our second method for ranking, we can safely assume that this is an appropriate ranking for the following unnamed Kenpachis. With a rank of 7 in our rankings is the 4th Kenpachi. With a rank of 6 in our rankings is the 5th Kenpachi. With a rank of 5 and among the strongest Kenpachis in our rankings is the 6th Kenpachi. These 3 Kenpachis are ranked through their feats of defeating the previous holder of the title, Kenpachi. Unfortunately, we don't know much about them, but we can safely assume that these holders of a higher rank were more powerful than the previous 4, hence they also earn a higher captain class tier. In my opinion, they all should be at least ranked as mid-level captains and at best be high captain class level. Finally, we're going to rank the top and remaining 4 Kenpachis. Due to the information we have on them, we will be able to use both the battle stats and the second method of ranking that we've been using thus far. For the battle stats, as I mentioned earlier, we will use the already established combat score system. The combat score system uses 7 stats to rank each of the Kenpachis. These 7 stats used are offense, defense, mobility, Kido, intelligence, and physical strength. All the stats have a low possible score of 0 and the highest score being 100. The rankings for these 4 remaining Kenpachis will be done after we've finished tallying all their combat score and use the second method as well to rank them. So let us start by seeing the stats of each of the remaining Kenpachis. Let's start by looking at the 7th Kenpachi, Kuriyashiki. He defeated the 6th Kenpachi and he protected his title for several hundred years, an admirable feat. On top of this, his power was so immense that he was invited to join the Zero Division, a division known for inviting only an exceptional Shinigami. His Shikai is a living type that summons 13 gigantic creatures which eat everything he sends them to consume. His Bankai is also a living type which summons a jaw from the ground which pulverizes everything and everyone, including the living, non-living, friends and foes. Even Azashiro, who had fused with Siret, felt that he could lose because of its size and power. Due to its area of effect, it was banned from being used. Even in base, Kuriyashiki was so powerful that Azashiro's Bankai attacks would be useless. Azashiro had to merge with his internal organs to loosen his Ryatsu without his knowledge, yet still got hurt while doing that in order to defeat him. He was a brilliant and strategic Kenpachi. With this information, here are his battle stats: offense 100, defense 100, mobility 100, Kido 50, intelligence 80, physical strength 100, total score 530. On to the next Kenpachi, the 8th Kenpachi, Azashiro. Azashiro inherited the innate talents of his clan. This clan obtained noble status due to their powerful Kaido and swordsmanship. Azashiro is always in Bankai, with his Zanpakuto being invisible. This could mean he has achieved a level of success in evolving from a Shinigami to something even stronger. And it would also explain why he does not follow the traditional route of his Bankai, being a 5 to 10 times multiplier to his base, since in base he is easily the weakest ever captain, let alone Kenpachi. His ability is to merge and fuse with his surroundings, and as a result control everything he fuses with, down to the level of particles. He can fuse limitlessly but not go through Seki and anything that repels spirit energy. He can spam hundreds of Kaido spells simultaneously, or unleash spells with hundreds their original potency by using hundreds of Jige which he has tucked away with him. He can even spam hundreds of Black Coffin spells if he pleases, or Black Coffin hundreds of times stronger than his power level. Durability-wise, when his body is fused with many areas, if he's destroyed in one area, he will reform in another area he has merged with. With Shikai release, he loses his ultimate shield. He no longer merges with the surrounding, but obtains the ultimate sword, or the Raishi that he merged with condenses into an ultimate sword. Zaraki was very pleased with his battle with Azashiro in this state. With this information, here are his battle stats: offense 100, defense 100, mobility 100, Kido 100, intelligence 100, physical strength 30, total score 530. On to the next Kenpachi, Zaraki. He is the most on-screen Kenpachi, so anime-only fans will surely know all of his previous feats, so I won't linger along with him. At his most powerful we've seen him yet, he was more than a match for Volstandig Jared, and in the novel he defeated Haikon in his base. Haikon being a member of all the races in Bleach similar to Ikigo, and is also very powerful, thus it being one of Zaraki's best feat alongside others. With this information, here are his battle stats: offense 100, defense 100, mobility 100, Kido, intelligence 50, physical strength 100, total score 450. Now on to the final Kenpachi, who's ironically the first Kenpachi, Unohana. Similar to Zaraki, we will utilize the already established combat score, but also add on to it as we see fit, so I won't linger with her stats too long either. From the information of her combat score as Retsu Unohana during the Soul Society arc, offense 100, defense 80, mobility 70, Kido 100, intelligence 100, physical strength 90, with a total score of 540. But as Yakiru Unohana and in her prime, this is her battle stats: offense 100, defense 100, mobility 80, Kido 100, intelligence 100, physical strength 100, total score 580. We know this is true since Yamamoto is stated to have lost his physical strength due to age, and both Unohana and Yamamoto are relative in terms of age. Now on to the second method of ranking, which considers the number of wins against an existing Kenpachi. Each win equals to an additional 50 points in the battle stats, which is only applicable if one has defeated a Kenpachi that is ranked higher in terms of battle stats. From the battle stats, here are the rankings. Rank 4, Kenpachi Zaraki, with a score of 450. Number 2, Kenpachi Azashiro, with a score of 530. Number 2, Kenpachi Kuriyashiki with a score of 530. Number 1, Kenpachi Unohana with a score of 580. Using the second method, however, this is the final rankings. Rank 4, Kenpachi Kuriyashiki with a score of 530. Number 3, Kenpachi Azashiro with a score of 530 but a temporary score of 580 for defeating Kuriyashiki in combat and gaining a temporary 50 points. Rank 2 is Kenpachi Zaraki with a score of 450 and a temporary score of 550 for defeating two Kenpachis and gaining 100 points. And finally, Rank 1 is the first Kenpachi Yakiru Unohana with a score of 580. However, if we consider the 1,000 times she killed Zaraki as defeats, she gets a temporary score of 580, which is impossible since our combat system only has a high score of 600 due to having 6 stats. As for which tier these for Kenpachis fall under, we have an established system that can help us. The combat score system placed high captain level Shinigami like Jin to have a score of 480. While the combat score system placed Shunsui, who's considered by Yamamururu to be borderline transcendent, to have a total score of 530. And finally, transcendent characters like Aizen and Yamamururu have a score of 560. Using these scores as estimates to their tier, it would seem appropriate to consider the 4 Kenpachis in the following tiers. Kenpachi Kuriyashiki with a score of 530 is borderline transcendent, similar to Shunsui. Kenpachi Azashiro with a score of 530 is borderline transcendent. However, with a temporary score of 580, he becomes transcendent like others who can merge with their Zanpakuto, and he has feats to collaborate with his evolution, being relative to Aizen, who admitted to this. Kenpachi Zaraki with a score of 450 is a high captain level Shinigami, but with a temporary score of 550 he becomes transcendent, having also performed transcendent level feats. And finally, the rank 1 Kenpachi Unohana Yakiru with a score of 540 as Retsu Unohana is borderline transcendent, but as Yakiru Unohana with a score of 580, she becomes transcendent. I hope you enjoyed this ranking. If you did, please consider subscribing as it helps push the content to other viewers. If you didn't but you have your own definitive list, please comment down below in the comment section, as I'd like to hear out your thoughts and methodology used to arrive to it. If you're interested in more in-depth analysis of Unohana, please visit my channel and look for a video titled The Strongest Captain.
Questions, comments, concerns? Y'all already know what to do.